Is Auburn's next head coach a no-brainer?
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five, and we are ready to get after it. Is the next Auburn head coach a no-brainer? Boy, oh boy, the media seems to have nailed who they think Auburn's next head coach would be. They're almost unanimous. We're going to look at a clip today. It's a little bit longer, but there's a lot of good stuff in there to talk about. We're going to talk about Alabama ties, state of Alabama ties. Do those really matter anymore? Are they really that big of an advantage? And then a conversation about when you're looking for a head coach and then what football looks like over the next, let's just say 10, 15 years. I think our priority and our values are going to change. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But I want to jump into the no-brainer conversation. Brandon Marcello goes on the next round. He's been adamant. It's John Summerall. He's been adamant that it makes sense. It's a no-brainer. Don't overthink it. I want to play this clip. It's a little bit longer. Forgive me for the format, but it was a little bit of a large file, so you have to do it a particular way. If you're listening on audio, it's going to sound great. Video, it kind of look a little weird, but here we go.
Yeah. It just makes sense. I mean, if, John Cohen's not listening to me, he's not picking up my phone calls, but I know he's the search committee, and just don't outthink it, John. Don't outthink yourself. Don't think about social media. Don't think about the reaction. Go hire John Summerall. And I'll tell you right now, you go hire John Summerall, Auburn's winning 10 games here within the next 2 years. Just put me down saying that right now.
Okay, with that said, of the open jobs, do you feel most confident? If I was like gun to head, you've got to give me one guy where he's going for sure. Would that be your answer, or would you go another direction?
Of all the jobs that are open,
I'm saying, do you feel better about where Florida goes or where LSU goes?
That's the one I would say that I'd feel best about.
Okay, well, I think Auburn fans love hearing that.
Yeah, that's a great hire for them.
I would think so, right? I even wrote a column about it a week or so ago. Like, it makes too much damn sense. But again, he's up for other jobs. Other schools are interested in him, including Arkansas. But it just makes a lot of sense for all the reasons that's probably been said on your show before. His wife went to Auburn. He's an Alabama guy. He knows every single freaking high school coach in that state. They respect him. And God forgive me, I can't remember the coach's name, but there's a coach in the state there. I can't remember his name. Big Alabama guy, right? Will never go to Auburn to do 7-on-7 camps or anything, like ever. You hire John Summerall at Auburn, that guy's going to go to Auburn 7-on-7 camps. That's just how tight John Summerall is with a lot of these guys and all the relationships he's brought. So it's just a no-brainer to me. Like, don't hire a search firm. Don't get a committee together. Don't spend money on that. Go hire John Summerall. Get it done.
Sorry, my mic was muted. So what do you think about that? Don't overthink it, John Cohen. Don't overthink it, John Cohen. Just go get John Summerall. I got to be honest. I like John Summerall a lot. He'd be up there in top 2 or 3. Okay. So I would be ecstatic if he's hired, but something about the media all being aligned behind one guy makes me a little bit nervous. Almost feels like a setup. But no, it really does make a ton of sense when you think about all of the attributes, all of the things that come with John. Okay. Number one, like I don't know that people know this, but he coached at Ole Miss for one season, and he coached with several of the current Auburn staff. So if you're looking at some staff continuity, if that's part of your goal, it's an obvious fit there. Then you have obviously the wife connection to Auburn, an Auburn graduate. That's another, connection. Not that necessarily makes you a great football coach, but just Auburn puts a big value sometimes on fit and understanding Auburn, for better, for worse. Sometimes I think that's a good thing. And then sometimes I think maybe you handicap yourself a little bit. But there's a lot of stuff about him that I think just make a lot of sense. If you go look on his Twitter page, this kind of goes in line with what Marcello was talking about. Sidebar: we used to be almost neighbors, by the way, when he was covering Auburn. So, fun fact. If you go look at the followers on John Summerall's Twitter page, you got a lot of Auburn kids on there. You got Cam Coleman. You got Eric Winters. You have a ton of the Alabama guys following him on social media because he recruited all of them. He was in contact with all of them whenever he was at Troy, whenever he was at Tulane. Funny story, go see who's officially visiting Tulane this weekend. Pretty big recruit right down the road from Auburn, Marquez Daniel, who's committed to Florida. He's visiting Tulane this weekend. That's pretty interesting. So when you're talking about if one of your goals is player retention, roster retention, they know this guy. They've had a relationship with this guy. He's been in every high school in the state of Alabama and around the state of Alabama. He does have a relationship with a lot of those guys. So again, we're checking a ton of boxes of what you're looking for. Hey, I'm thinking about staff continuity, got a relationship with a lot of the staff. Does that help you with DJ Durkin? He coached with Wesley McGriff. He coached with Maurice Harris. He coached with, there's another one that's on our staff, and the name just escapes me, so forgive me. But if DJ's the guy that he wants to tap as the defensive coordinator, he's got people that can vouch for him, if that's the case. It does seem to make a lot of sense, and sometimes I feel like the ones that make the most sense sometimes are just the wrong decision. And there's nothing I can back that up with but just sheer fear, I guess. Sometimes the most, there's the Occam's razor. Sometimes the most obvious answer is the correct answer, but for whatever reason with Auburn, it feels like the most obvious answer ends up being the wrong answer. I'm going to say if it ends up being John Summerall, that's not the case this time. He mentioned 10 games. We're going to talk about that at the end and how important I think that is and is going to be moving forward. But he harped on a lot of Alabama ties, and he mentioned a head coach in Alabama. I think I know who it is. And then moving forward, that is obviously a bonus, but is it mega necessary? We'll talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to me, Kyle Rush with Keller Williams Real Estate in Auburn and Opelika, part of the Legacy Property Group. Look, if you want to move to Auburn, you want to invest in Auburn with a rental property, short-term or long-term, or you want to build in Auburn, I'm your guy. Give me a shout. I'd love to help you and your family find your dream home, find your dream investment, or build your dream home. Worked with pretty much every builder in town, know them all personally, can definitely point you in the right direction there. Or, hey, if you're getting out of town and you need somebody to list your home, hey, this is a pretty big platform, by the way. Just saying. We could get in front of a lot of folks. So definitely give me a shout. It's Kyle Rush at kellerwilliams.com. That's my email address. I've got a ton of emails already since we started doing this, so I answer every single one of them. So shoot it in. And or you can leave a voicemail at 334-245-3615, and we'd love to help. We'll be back right after this. So let's talk about Alabama ties. or just like honestly recruiting in general. How important is that going to be moving forward in today's college football? Now, I don't think you necessarily just have to be I don't think you can necessarily just be a turd, unlikable guy. But to be necessarily from that particular area, familiar with that particular area, I don't know how much that's going to be just as much of a priority as it would have been, just say like 4 or 5 years ago. I know everybody, especially down here, we look up north and we assume it's like one state. If you're like me, if you're from the north, everybody knows everybody and everybody's from the same area. But Kurt Signetti's a Pennsylvania guy, never really had much to do with Indiana at all. And to be honest, like not many of the big time players he has are from Indiana. That's just not college football now. It's not so much of it's honestly way more general manager and player personnel driven as far as how you build a roster than it is, setting up the wall and building the wall around your state. Sure, that's going to be important, but most of those battles are going to still be won by NIL. Relationships could help if everything's equal. Relationships can help push it over the edge. But for the most part, those battles are going to be fought contractually and with NIL deals and rev share and third-party deals and all that stuff. So I don't want Auburn to sell themselves short on who's the best state of Alabama fit. Because again, I don't necessarily think that's going to be a huge priority like down the road. Or right now, not even down the road, right now. But again, I think John checks way more boxes to me than just those boxes that I'm mentioning. Just the Alabama connection, just the, having connections with the coaches on the staff, just the having an Auburn tie. I think he's a fantastic football coach. He's already discovered you got to be a CEO. Yeah, sure, I can have a defensive mind, but I need to be a CEO. I've seen him rebuild a team that's decimated every single year. He's been a college coach and he still wins. He's about to his schedule's lining up to where he could go 4 for 4, winning either a total conference or a share of your division. 4 for 4. So in other words, ever since he's been a college head coach, he's going to either win the whole conference or win his side of the conference 4 out of 4 years. If this season continues like it's continuing. So I like that aspect much more than I like the other. The others, to me, just we'll call it icing on the cake. I think he's a good football coach. It's all going to depend on the hires. And I've seen a lot of folks that just would not be excited if he brought his offensive coordinator. I get it. So who would that offensive coordinator, what would that hire look like? I think that would be the biggest question that I think would sell people one way or the other on how they feel about John Summerall. Obviously, if you keep DJ Durkin, I think people are going to be ecstatic. I'm still skeptical on how that works out. But I do think there's a lot of motivation for DJ to stay. And then obviously the offensive side of the ball, what does he do there? So we'll see. He mentioned something in there about winning 10 games. Okay. And I want to talk about where I see and how I feel like college football is going to move over the next decade or so, and where we value things. Okay. So the BCS and the 4-team playoff prior to NIL seemed to create a game to where there was very, very few at the top accumulating all of the talent. And it was the same folks almost winning it or in the conversation like every single year. So it got to this mindset of championship or bust. Bowl games stink. Everything stinks. It's either if you're happy with 10 wins and you didn't get to the championship, you're a loser. It kind of breeded that mindset. And where I think college football is about to move into, especially with all of the parity across the country. I mean, to me, there's so many people, and look, it's got its warts, okay? It's not perfect. The NIL and the transfer portal, I think they're getting closer to making it more manageable, and I'm going to have a discussion on the last thing I think they could do, to me, that would fix everything as far as making it much more manageable with the schedule. We'll talk about that another day. But with the way everything's going, I think the way we value success in a football season is going to start looking more like basketball. We're going to start seeing, I think, banners being hung, quote unquote. In other words, heavy value on tournament appearances. Right now, if you go look in basketball arenas across the country, you'll see a banner that has tournament appearances on it. Some schools that make it almost every single year, they may have, instead of tournament appearances, they may just have Sweet 16 or whatever up there. I'm not saying we're going to put those on the stadium, but I think tournament appearances, playoff appearances, and playoff wins are going to start being just like almost, I'm not saying like the ultimate goal, but if you can make the tournament. Remember when we were when we started getting into this basketball thing with Bruce Pearl, we're like, man, if we can just get to the tournament, we're fantastic. Bruce never won a national championship. Yeah, we got the 2 Final Fours, but I think he's lauded as one of he's obviously probably the most favorite coach of any sport in Auburn history. Never won a championship, a national championship, won a lot of conference championships. I think football is going to kind of move in the same direction. So 10 wins is going to become very, very vital, okay? Because 10 wins should get you into the playoffs. So, especially if they move it to 16 teams down the road. So you're looking at 16 teams, you win a playoff game. That's going to be extremely valuable. Like, you're going to be fired up about that. We got to the top. We got to the Elite Eight or whatever in football. That's going to be a mark of success as a coach. That's going to be stuff that you check off on your resume. This particular coach, he's been to 5 college football playoffs, and he's been to 3 second rounds, and he's been to 2 third rounds. Like, that's what it's going to be, I think, moving forward. It's not going to be this championship or bust mindset. So if you can you're not necessarily trying, the ultimate goal is to win a national championship, but you got to be knocking on the door. You got to have much more opportunities to knock on the door. Even if you don't answer it, you got to be knocking on the door. And I think that's going to be the mark of a successful football program moving forward. Like, who's always knocking on the door? And if they win one national championship out of 15 years or whatever, that to me is going to be the mark of a successful program moving forward. I think that's what's going to fire people up, is getting to the playoffs, being in the hunt for the playoffs, maybe winning a game or 2 in the playoffs. That's going to be your mark of success moving forward. Very, very similar to college basketball. And that's why I think what you have to do is find that coach that can raise the floor. Who can raise the floor to the point where your bad season is 9 wins. Your bad season is 8 wins. And you're averaging somewhere around 10-ish wins a season. And every so often you'll pop and maybe go 11-1 or something like that. If John can get you to, or whoever can get you to that 10-win plateau, 10-win mark, that to me is going to put you in the conversation of being one of those teams, one of those tournament teams, one of those playoff teams that could make a run. That's going to be the discussion, I think, moving forward. So we'll see. So when you hire a coach, it's not going to be he's won X amount of when you go try to find a coach in the next 10 years, it's not going to be he's won 10 national championships or he's won this or he's won that. It's going to be he's been a college coach for 10 years. He's made the playoffs 6. That's qualified. Let me know what you think. When you have that mindset, there's a lot of guys I think that will open you up to. Open your mind up to. How about that? Hey, we're going to have I know that I've been teasing today's show as being the big one, but it's actually, it's a guess, and we're trying to reel it in. We're coordinating some schedules. I really think it's going to go down tomorrow, and it's going to be great. And I can't wait for everybody to hear it. There's going to be an episode of Afternoon Delight, which is a members behind the scenes show, go up this afternoon with Ben Taylor. We're going to talk about coaching searches. That's going to be a good one. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, our video membership, and you'll be able to see that one. And then we'll be back again soon. Guys, I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening, and drive home safely.